Hi guys, so for your next task today, we are going to complete a choice board on linear functions. So if you've never done a choice board before, the premise is very simple. I'll give you a certain number of boxes, so in this case 9, and you have to choose which ones you would like to complete to kind of learn more or practice more with this concept. So your task today is to complete a tic-tac-toe. Now it told you already to begin with box 5, and box 5, move my draw tool out, maybe, there we go. Box 5 is this box right here. Okay, so for you to complete a tic-tac-toe, you could go vertically with box 5, you could go horizontally, you could also do the diagonals. Okay, but you have to pick 2, just 2, in order to complete this tic-tac-toe. Okay, once you are done with that, then you are going to complete the Google form, which is on slide 2. And on that Google form, you're going to tell me which boxes that you completed. You can give me the number, you can give me the name, and what you learned and what questions you have. Now, here's what I want to be very clear about. I don't expect perfection. I really don't. I know that it's been 6 months for a lot of us since we've done some math, but this is stuff that you have learned before. And so I just want you to kind of rack your brain and see what you remember. We're going to be doing a ton of work with functions this year, linear being the very basic type of functions that we start with. So try these out. My suggestion would be, if you are really unsure, you're totally not remembering linear functions at all, then I would go ahead and start with maybe some of the Desmos activities. If you're like, man, linear functions are great, then I would probably go maybe try some of the ACT questions. Those ACT questions, some of them can be a little bit challenging in the way they're worded. So give those a try. Before you sign off of this video, I am going to go over just a couple linear function notations, formulas, just in case you do forget. If you feel like you already remember all of that, then feel free to stop the video now and move on. But if you feel like you need that extra information, then stick around. So if you remember, linear functions, those are just lines on the graph, right? They have a constant rate of change. You can see them as positive sloping lines. You can see them as negative sloping lines. You might have horizontal, you might have vertical lines, etc. Okay, you have typically 2 main formulas that we use with linear functions. We have slope-intercept form, which would be y equals mx plus b. Remember that m, that's your slope, and that b value is your y-intercept. Okay, we also have point slope form. Okay, point slope form would be y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. Remember again, that m is still your slope. And then the y1 and the x1, those are just points, or that's just a point on a graph. x1, y1, point on the line. Oops, that looks weird. Okay, if you don't know the slope of a line, you can always figure it out with 2 points. So your slope formula, you've got m equals y minus y1, or y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So the difference in y's from 2 points over the difference in x's from 2 points. Okay. When you're counting slope on a graph, plotting or counting, remember when we plot slope, we always do rise, then run. Oops. Your rise could be up if it's positive. It could be down if it's a negative slope. And typically we always just run to the right. If you're counting your slope on a graph, I always count slope from left to right. Okay, makes it, if you keep it positive or keep it consistent like you would read a book, makes it a little bit simpler to always remember if you're going positive or negative with your slope. So let's say I have 2 points here. and I were counting my slope on here, I'd start from this left point. I'd say I'm going up 1, 2, 3, over 1, 2. So my slope would be 3 over 2. Okay, remember slope is always written as a fraction. Never write it as a point, parentheses 3 comma 2 parentheses. That, don't do that. Get that out of your brain if you do it now. Slope is always, always, always written as a fraction. Okay. Last thing that I would say, just as kind of some helpful hints, if you're going from left to right and your graph is increasing, that is a positive slope. If you're going from left to right and your graph is decreasing, that would be a negative slope. If you have a horizontal graph, then if we think rise over run, your rise is 0. You're not going up at all. Your run really could be any number, just depends on where your 2 points on that line are. And 0 divided by a number is 0, so you have a 0 slope. If you have a vertical line, well, your rise could be any number, but your run this time is 0. And any number divided by 0 is undefined. So in this case, for a vertical line, your slope would be undefined. Okay, so you have some class time now to work on these choice boards. Don't forget the Google reflection at the end. And please, 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 2 things to remember. A, if you have any questions, always ask me. I'm always here to answer your questions. I don't want you just sitting and struggling. And B, I don't expect it to be perfect. I know a lot of times we think math has to be right or wrong and we want to be perfect with it all. Please take this as a time to really just try to think back and do the best that you can. The best is all we can ask for. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions and go play some tic-tac-toe.